Over the last 2 years, I've been creating content with the goal in mind to basically scale my business off the back of it. And over the course of that 2 years, I've made so many mistakes. I've observed people who are absolutely crushing it. I've observed people who are just doing it all completely wrong. Just being frank as well, I was one of those guys who was completely doing it wrong last year. And I thought I'd create this video because I finally cracked the code in terms of creating YouTube content that converts. And in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to build a niche audience on YouTube and a system around YouTube that allows you to convert attention into high ticket clients, high ticket sales. This YouTube system essentially turned my sales cycle from 100% manual to around 80% passive pre-sale within my sales cycle, and only around about 20% actual manual sales within my sales cycle now. The first sort of case study where I came across this YouTube system or something similar to it was a guy called Serge Guattari, who used to do sort of social media marketing agency content, and he moved into outsourcing. Now he's very much AI infrastructure. I actually became a client of one of Serge's programs simply through going through his YouTube system, not knowing it at the time, but it sort of clicked when I actually got onto the sales call with his closer, and I closed for $9,000, with barely any objections. His sales closer had a pretty easy job closing me because I'd just been nurtured and sort of passively converted through his own YouTube system. And this is literally what we're going to go through in this video. So the first thing we're going to cover is understanding your niche and your ICP. That's always the number one thing you have to do when it comes to creating any type of content. The second thing is the intentional content funnel. So this is how you see content and how you sort of go about content. And then off the back of that, building an actual strategy in order to grow not your channel, but your business. And then as a bonus, we're also going to go into how to make it impossible to miss the mark, and basically creating systems that repeat. Without further ado, getting straight into understanding your niche. So a lot of people, they sort of skip past this bit, or they don't put emphasis on how important it is. But I see a lot of business owners trying to create content and they're just going extremely broad. They're trying to mimic people like Alex Hormozy. They're trying to mimic people like Iman Gadzhi, who have incredibly broad content. And as much as that works for them because they have millions of eyeballs on them, it doesn't work for you, especially if you're trying to sell a high ticket program as a coach or a consultant or even a hybrid operator, someone like that. And so your best bet if you're trying to sell high ticket is going to always be, especially if you're sort of trying to scale beyond 20, 30K a month, your best bet is always going to be to narrow your content. Because if you think about it, you need to come across as an expert in order for someone to buy with you, especially if you don't have huge influence within a market. So the more specific you can make your content, the more you directly speak through your messaging to that exact avatar. And that's going to just build resonance more and more and more. And it's just going to give you much better leverage. The first thing you have to do when it comes to actually identifying your real ICP, you may already have one. You just need to go deeper on that ICP. The first thing you do is identify the gap between the current situation of that ICP and their dream outcome. And when you lean into that gap, you're able to understand what actually makes that up. When you expand that, you basically uncover the problems and the solutions, and that is just a pool full of content that you can go and create. And if you're not niching down, if you're not really going into depth when it comes to understanding your ICP, how are you going to create content that's going to be able to convert somebody? It takes a lot to be able to convert someone just through content. And so if you don't have an understanding of who that is, you're sort of just starting on the wrong foot completely. And then in terms of how you should see content when you are creating content as a founder, as a coach, as an operator, as a consultant, these content assets on YouTube should do one of three things, if not all of these three things. The first thing they should do is these YouTube assets should act as essentially a megaphone to amplify all other levels of your marketing. If you're doing cold outreach and you have an incredibly solid YouTube system, then it's going to amplify the effects or the outcomes of doing cold outreach, even warm outreach as well. If you already have organic content, then on Instagram, for example, and you can send people to YouTube assets, it's going to amplify your ability to convert because, the standard law when it comes to converting people passively into a high ticket program. They have to watch around 7 hours worth of content consumed. You know, why do you think Alex Hormozi's recent $100 million money models launch was 7 hours long? People need to consume that much content if they are completely new to you and everything like that. And so if you have basically optimized content for short form, you've just got to think, how many reels is somebody going to have to go through in order to get to 7 hours worth of content? Whereas if you can have content assets, obviously that's longer content, you've got more entitlement to more of their time because of the platform that it's on. And so you can just amplify your organic content on short form through YouTube as well. And then obviously ads is a big one. If you're running ads as a coach, consultant, operator, and you're not really nurturing them through long form assets, you're kind of being very inefficient with your funnel, because you basically got to have a huge ad spend in order to fill enough traffic that you might get 1 or 2 clients pop out at the other end of it. The second thing that these YouTube assets should be doing in your mind is you do not create a YouTube asset unless it's intentionally somewhere within the system and growing your business. Like, you're not trying to be famous here. You're not trying to grow your own fame or anything like that. You're trying to grow your business off the back of YouTube. Every YouTube video you create should have its own role within your ecosystem. And then the third thing that YouTube assets should do is cause a ripple effect within your market. So essentially, you want to be able to signal yourself as an authority, and in doing so, you want to have influence within your market. You know, when it comes to trends, when it comes to basically pulling the strings, when it comes to acting as an authority in your market. These are all things that just really influence your sales cycle. People essentially follow the lead of those who are in authority at the end of the day. So these are what your YouTube assets should be doing within your YouTube system. And in terms of a sort of broader concept of looking at your own YouTube system, you want to basically see your own content as a funnel. Now, when it comes to YouTube, the main thing is that it acts as an ecosystem, because essentially, if you think about it, unlike a funnel traditionally, where you had like 2 or 3 steps within your funnel and people would just all simultaneously go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, that is no longer how it works, especially since trust has just absolutely like capitulated in the info space, especially over the last couple of years. So you need to see your content as an ecosystem / funnel, in the sense that you should be creating top of funnel content for like awareness, that sort of thing, middle of funnel content for nurturing, and then bottom of funnel to convert. That's how you should see it as a funnel. But you should also see it as an ecosystem, in the sense that obviously if you're selling information, that's not an impulse buy. And so when people land within your ecosystem on YouTube, they may watch a top of funnel YouTube video. They may then watch a middle of funnel one. Then they might go back to a top of funnel one. They may land on a bottom of funnel one, but if they're not quite ready to buy, they might go back into a middle of funnel YouTube video. So it's not like a standard step 1, step 2, step 3, and then they convert. That's no longer the game when it comes to content. You will be able to see, if you look at my YouTube videos and my YouTube channel, I have content that basically accommodates the top of funnel. I have content that nurtures and is specific to be middle of funnel, and then I also have content that is bottom of funnel, which is designed to like really convert. And you also have to be aware of buying cycles within any market. Only around 3% of that market is ready to actually commit into a high ticket offer. And you know, most coaches I see today, I've mentioned this in other videos as well, they're trying to optimize their entire funnel around just that 3% who are ready to buy now, because they're operating on short-term cycles and short-term expectations of growth. And they basically fail to miss out, you know, up to 27% more of their market if they were just willing to play more sort of long-term games and build leverage models within their own content ecosystems. Because 17% of the market are like solution aware, open to solutions. 20% of the market at any given time is like aware of their problems. And there's going to be plenty of problems as well that they may not be aware of, that you can sort of uncover and unveil through your content ecosystem. But every piece of content should fit into awareness, nurturing, and conversion. So if we look at this in more depth when it comes to seeing your content as a funnel, top of funnel essentially is organic reach. Like, you want to maximize your broadness at the top of your funnel so that you can try and get as many people into your world, your ecosystem. This is where you want to build belief systems. So a guy who does this like extremely well is Charlie Morgan. Most of his content today on YouTube is like top of funnel, building his belief systems into his prospects, into his viewers, connecting with his audience, like building a sense that they can resonate with him, and then also filtering them out. So like even in his top of funnel content, he's talking to a specific avatar. And then when it comes to middle of funnel content, this is where you really build trust. This is where you express deep understanding of your ideal client profile's problems. This is where you show off your knowledge, your authoritative expertise. And this is where you leverage things like visionary concepts, patterns, and intonation. Literally like what I'm doing right now. This is a visual concept. It allows you to learn and retain more information. And then going into bottom of funnel content, this is where you want to create clarity. Clarity is the prerequisite for conversion. Like if people aren't 100% clear on what you do, they're never going to convert. If they're not 100% clear on the problem you solve, on the solution you offer, even on the deliverables that you basically have within your core offer or anything like that, if they're not clear on that stuff, then they're not going to convert. If they're not clear on your belief systems, they're not going to convert. If they're not clear that they connect with you, they're not going to convert. If they're not clear that you are the expert or the authority in their eyes, they're not going to convert. Bottom of funnel content is where you also reveal like deeper processes. It's where you flood your audience with proof, with risk reversal. It's where you dissolve unconscious skeptical barriers or thoughts on you, and it's where you basically call them to action. When it comes to top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, a sort of rule that you can go with is just not to even have a CTA. You just want to deliver so much value. And in some pieces of content, you can kind of mix all three of these levels together. But when you go into creating one piece of content, have intention for it. Is this piece of content mainly to build beliefs? Is it to connect? Is it to filter? Is it to build trust and give value to your audience? Or is it to convert? Obviously, you want to create less of these. You don't just want to be trying to convert people with every single video. You want to sort of have a diversity of videos so people don't get fatigued by like watching your content either. And then the most important thing is that no matter what stage of the content funnel they are at within your ecosystem, there's always an option for them to convert. Because if we look back up here, people might be here one day and they might be here the next. Other people may be ready to buy after like maybe a few weeks of watching your content, and they sort of progress over time towards being ready to commit, and that's when they'll buy. But it may take weeks, it may take months. This is like future revenue that you're unlocking with high quality clients that are like nurtured to be the perfect client for you. And if you're not offering a conversion pathway at any given piece within your ecosystem, you're going to be missing out on lots of revenue. So you basically want to have different pathways for them to convert based on the character that they are. Not everybody is the same. So for instance, you want an option pathway for them to convert passively through like a landing page or a booking funnel in the description of your YouTube videos. You want an option path for them to convert with you on Instagram manually through DM nurture, because some people may want to connect with you further. They may want to ask questions. This is a great way for you to convert them. Conversations lead to conversions naturally. Like they may book passively through a booking funnel, but they're still going to have a conversation with somebody on that discovery call or the sales call or whatever. You also want to retain them within your ecosystem to watch, another video and keep them into your ecosystem and your system because they may not be ready to buy. If they are not ready to commit and they're still, maybe they've gone from problem aware to now they're solution aware, they're still not ready to commit. And so you want to keep them within your ecosystem rather than them leaving your ecosystem and going into someone else's essentially. So that is how you should see your content. See it as a funnel, see it as an ecosystem. When you're creating content pieces, have this in top of mind, but also have in mind that you need a pathway for them to navigate in any which direction they want, because it's a longer buying cycle when it comes to selling information and coaching and that sort of thing. So we've covered the intentional content funnel. Now we need to actually get to your strategy when it comes to creating content to convert and content to generate high ticket clients. This is a big mistake that I used to make, and it's a big mistake I see a lot of people making. Just something that comes to mind immediately is like the first client I ever worked with, who was a fitness coach, and he was just creating content to entertain, even though he didn't necessarily know that. He wasn't creating any content that served his ICP or his high ticket prospects. And as a result, he was like dead broke until he changed this. You're not trying to be a Mr. Beast. You're not trying to entertain people and get tens of millions of views on every video. You're trying to serve somebody so that they become a client. You're trying to build an intentional ecosystem and funnel when it comes to your content so that you can convert. And going back to what I was sort of talking about at the start of the video, many people make the mistake of trying to mimic people with huge audiences when they are just not selling the same stuff you're selling. To make this a bit clearer, people like Daniel Dalen, you would have heard of at least one of these people. Daniel Dalen, he's like blown up, incredible human being, building a really strong community online. He's getting like millions of eyeballs on him, huge pools of attention, but he's not trying to sell high ticket. He's selling a low ticket, sort of broader appealing product, which is glasses. I've literally got a pair of his glasses here. So he's selling a broader product, and as a result, he's got a broader audience. Alex Hormozy has millions of eyeballs. He's not selling high ticket predominantly. He's selling low ticket books. Iman Gadzhi, he's got millions of eyeballs. He used to sell high ticket. Now he has more attention. He's selling low ticket. He's selling Big Day, his drinks company. And then there's you down here trying to sell a high ticket program, a high ticket mentorship, something like that. And yet you're trying to create the same content as them to do so. You need to be far more specific because you lack the leverage, you lack the influence that these guys have in terms of the scale that they have it. And so every video you create has to be more intentional. It has to serve a greater purpose if you're trying to convert high ticket. And a really good example of this is literally from my own experience. Last year in 2024, I created 50 YouTube videos, and off the back of that, I generated $0 from high ticket sales. So like all of the time, all the effort to create these videos, I generated zero income from it because I was creating content to entertain. I was trying to copy these guys who create broader content, and yet I was trying to sell high ticket. And as a result, I literally had no outcome from it. And in 2025, I've been way more intentional, and I've created 10 YouTube videos this year. And off the back of them, they have generated me, like just 2 of these 10 videos alone from inbound have generated me $20,400 from inbound high ticket sales. So like that is the difference. This is leverage. It's less input, huge outcome. 50 videos in 2024, 10 in 2025, 20,400 difference. And if we come on to the bonus here, which is like, this is all well and good. Like you trying to create content, you're trying to be more intentional with content in order to convert people. But unless you have a system to actually repeatedly do that, you're not going to be able to build a system that actually works long term. You know, when you have systems in order to do this, you increase the speed at which you get outputs. You increase the amount of inputs you have in terms of building this system, and therefore you increase the amount of outcomes that come from it. Like I just showed you, this is leverage right here. This is the system in place that allows you to create these assets consistently with intention, which means you show up and you get huge wins. It's about quality over quantity when you're trying to sell high ticket programs or high ticket mentorships. Again, going back to 2024, when I created 50 YouTube videos, I had no system whatsoever for creating like content that converts. I had no production process. I had no YouTube templates or formats to basically replicate high value intentional assets every time. Whereas this year, you know, just 2 of these videos generated me $20,400. I have an ideation extraction process. I have a batch recording system. I have a simple production process, and I have YouTube templates to basically create high value intentional videos consistently. Now, you know, what I'm about to offer you is completely free. It's included within my 9K offer. It's incredibly valuable. It's helped me a lot. And it's essentially the production system I use, which is really simple to create content consistently that's intentional. And it also consists of the frameworks I use to create really intentional YouTube videos. If you go onto Instagram and DM me the word YT system, YouTube system, I'll send you this for free. I won't collect your email or anything like that. This is just purely a golden nugget that you'll get for simply as a thank you for staying around and watching this video. So this is the system that has worked for countless business owners. My own mentor has literally just hit his first 100K month with less than 4,000 followers on Instagram and less than 350 YouTube subs. Like insane leverage from such a small audience. I know plenty of other people in this market that have less than like 3,000 followers and they're doing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K a month. Like unbelievable leverage just from being way more intentional and having a system around converting content and a strategy around top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, bottom of funnel content. I'll say it one more time, these 2 videos created me a bunch of money this year, like completely from inbound, just 2 YouTube videos with less than 1,000 combined views. Now, obviously this isn't a one-trick pony and it's not going to fill your calendar overnight. You can't expect instant outcomes unless you're consistent with this sort of stuff. But these results are possible with consistency, with intention, with strategy, and more importantly, with how you position yourself. So if you are needing to generate results like these and build out a proper YouTube ecosystem that not just builds qualified lead flow, but also amplifies all of your other marketing efforts, then feel free to schedule in some time with me with the top link in the description, and we can chat about your current situation, see if I can help you solve the problem you currently face, and hopefully build a high leverage client acquisition system. So thank you for watching. I hope this video was valuable to you, and I'll see you in the next one.